right, welcome to One Nation, a Sports Locker Magazine Extra. This is your host, Kirk DeMars, and thank you guys for joining us tonight. And we've got a fun program we're going to do. Not only some nostalgic things for Jay and myself, but we're going to get some good Cardinals and Royals information out to you. For right now, I'm going to go ahead and bring in Jay. Jay, what's going on?
Hey, what's up, Dad? I can hear you in the other room,
I
not
know.
just through my mic.
I know you are not all the way in Montrose, Colorado. You are right in the other room, literally.
I am in the other room. I'm in your house. You did not want me next to you during the program because you knew I would poke you and try to sit on your lap. So there's that.
Yeah, I'm not a dummy. Not at all.
No, I'm very excited to be here tonight. We had some great weather today. We were out doing interviews into town. We're going around the schools and doing interviews, photo shoots. We saw some really awesome students today. I was spitting happy to be here in back in my hometown of Jefferson City here in mid Missouri and just rocking and have a day with you, Dad.
Yeah,
Did you have fun?
yeah, it was good, and you were spitting happy. You didn't spit on me. That was the main thing. I ask you every week, how's the weather out there? I know how the weather is now where you're at, so it's a good day. Very good.
Yeah, it's interesting. If you're from mid Missouri, then you understand what I say. Right now, we're in the middle of fall spring. And boy, I love fall spring. But I even asked my granny about planting flowers, and she said, not yet. Don't do it yet. There's still going to be another chill. We're still going to get some snow. But I can't help but think about springtime on a day like and you start thinking about flowers and you start that fresh cut grass and nice weather and sunshine. But for thousands of I say millions of Americans, if you're like you and me, we're thinking about baseball. And boy, we've got spring training going on. And that's just America's pastime.
Hmm.
Some fun facts for you. The sport dates back over 175 years ago to 1845 when a group of men would start the New York Knickerbocker Baseball Club. You know, Cartwright is responsible for several rules that we still have, such as the diamond shaped infield, foul lines, and the three strike rule. Cartwright was also responsible for abolishing the practice of tagging the runner by throwing the ball at them. Could
Oh,
that sounds
come
really
on.
fun.
That would have been fun.
Dudes run into home plate and you can just throw the ball and tag them out. I mean, come on. But I thought that was very interesting that this sport has been around for over 175 years. So we decided to bring on a guy that was almost 175 years old because he's got a lot of facts, and that's Scott Marion. Uh, Scott Marion is a great guy. He was a general manager at Walmart. He lived here in Missouri for a long time. He's now in Wisconsin. There he is. Don't kill me, Scott. And then we also brought in Joe Green, lifelong Royals fan. He writes for he actually does some writing for Kansas City Royals. So we're very excited to have him on the program too. Scott and Joe, how are you guys doing?
Doing good.
Good, guys. See you.
It's good to have you guys on here. Hey, Ryan Olson made a quick comment. Bring that rule back about throwing the baseball.
Yeah, imagine how that would go now with these guys throwing 90 miles an hour. That would be fun.
I mean, we got UFC now, but why not?
Yeah, why not? Everybody likes a good brawl every now and then.
Yeah. Well, guys, we're very
You know,
Go ahead.
no, you're gonna say fun fact for our viewers. Scott of Kirk DeMars, and they worked at Walmart. That was probably a dozen years ago now. But yeah, Scott was the general manager. So Scott, well, you're the boss of the show tonight.
I don't think so.
Well, we're thankful that both of you are on here. We know that you both are really big baseball fans. Um, from my own knowledge, you like teams from the opposite sides of the state and are very knowledgeable about both of those. So that's kind of why we wanted to bring you both on here. Joe, we've had you on here before. You've also
Yep.
write an article for the magazine. We always love and appreciate your articles and the input you put in there. And Scott, as we talked before, you know, you wrote stories about me and my birth in a stick hut. So uh, I know you're going to bring some good stuff. Very good. Hey, Jay, why don't you go ahead and get started with our first question?
That's awesome. Hey, Joe, I'm going to throw one at you. Tell us how you became a Royals baseball fan, and what have been some of your favorite memories?
Well, I can remember really vaguely when the Royals and Cardinals played in the World Series back in 1985, and that was such a big deal around here that kind of got me interested in baseball. And in 1989 was the first time I actually got to go to a major league game and went and saw the Royals play what was at that time the California Angels. And it was the bottom of the inning, and a guy that the Royals used to have, an outfielder named Danny Tartable, hit a home run, and the place just went nuts. And the Royals ended up winning the game 5-4, and I've been hooked ever since. And went through a lot of years of misery watching the team because they fell on such hard times. And you asked about really good memories. 2014 and 2015, man, when they finally broke through and made the postseason and got into the World Series and then won the World Series. It was a great day in the green gold that day.
Yeah, it's always good when your team finally gets back to doing something. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's we know that.
Yes, something. Yeah, that's right. Because it was nothing for a long time.
I mean, that's how I think a lot of Chiefs fans. I think that's how we felt for a very long time. We know that the Cubs came through several years ago, and you know, Scott. Speaking of the Cubs, I know you do a great Harry Carey impersonation. Feel free to do that anytime tonight that you want to. But hey,
I might sneak it in.
all right. Hey, we're thankful you're on here. We know that you're a Cardinals fan. How long have you been a Cardinals fan, and what kind of got you started on that?
Well, I've been a baseball fan, specifically a Cardinal fan, since my earliest memory, and I think it's because my dad and was a Cardinal fan, and we listened to the games on the radio a lot. I was very fortunate. My dad played catch with me. He threw me batting practice, taught me how to switch hit me ground balls, fly balls, and when I got a little older, he even caught me as I learned how to pitch. But my favorite Cardinal memory was when I was 8 years old. It was back in 1971, and Bob Gibson threw his first and his only no hitter against the Pittsburgh Pirates. I remember my dad and I were listening to it on the car radio, and we didn't go inside the house to listen to it because we were afraid we would miss something. So we kept having to start the car so the battery wouldn't run down. But I just remember the excitement kept building. Of course, Jack Buck was the play announcer, and Gibson struck out Willie Stargell with 2 outs in the ninth for his no hitter. And getting more into your guys' age, I also have fond memories of like was it 2011 Darius and his kind of heroics through the playoffs in the World Series. Uh, Love the Whitey Dog Willie McGee era. And the Royals are my second favorite team. So the I-70 series, since it was the Royals, it didn't hurt as bad.
That's I'm the same way.
That's only because I haven't had enough time to talk to you about it.
Well, I'm the same way, Scott. Those have been my favorite two teams for ever since I can remember growing up. I was a Royals fan because of my cousin. She was a huge George Brett fan. I mean, George Brett everything everywhere. But I was an Ozzie Smith fan. I mean, even though I was a Royals fan, I loved watching Ozzie Smith. I mean, the Wizard of Oz. It was amazing to see out on that ball diamond.
Yep.
Those were my real first memories, I think, of baseball growing up, and just you just love the game through watching great players like that. Speaking of great players, Jay, why don't you go on into the next question?
Joe, tell us who's your favorite player of all time and why is that?
I've thought about that, and that is a really tough question. Um, Years I've had a lot. Actually, the first individual player that I really rooted for and enjoyed was a guy that played for the San Francisco Giants and then the Texas Rangers and Baltimore Orioles, and his name was Will Clark. And I don't know what it was about him. I just liked the swing that he had, and really, really rooted for him for years. And of course, as a Royals fan, I was a fan of George Brett and all those guys. I think if you really pinned me down and said who's the guy you've most enjoyed watching, it would be Alex Gordon for the Royals. And he's not the best player that I've seen play at all. I mean, he was an all-star and just retired this off season, but just his work ethic and his knowledge of the game and ability to do what they call the little things. It it was just fun to watch him play because he was one of those guys that knew that uniform is getting dirty, one way or the other, because he played hard every day, every night, and he was just a really easy guy to root for.
Also, Joe, I think because he could probably fit more chew in that cheek than or bubble gum, whatever it was, than anybody. I
All
think.
that bubble gum, yeah. And I always wondered when he would make if people that are watching, if they're familiar with Alex Gordon, when he would make one of those sensation catches that he would make, he was always blowing a bubble
Blowing a
right
bubble.
when he did it.
Yeah.
And I always wondered, is he doing this on purpose as kind of a, hey, look how good this is? But I honestly think it was just kind of an instinct for him. I think that he was so in the zone that was just he was just relaxed, while he was doing those things because he practiced so hard and played so hard. He knew that he could make the plays.
I would have been afraid of blowing a bubble, it popping all in my face, not being able to see, and then the ball hitting me right in the square center of the forehead.
Right, right.
Hey, Scott, what about you? Who's been your favorite player?
Hands down, my favorite player as a kid was Lou Brock. He was just so exciting. He was a great leadoff hitter. He was fast. He was the stolen base king for quite a while until Ricky Henderson came along. He broke Marion Will's single season stolen base record. Uh, but he was such a student of the game and of pitchers. I remember the announcers and seeing him on TV. They would talk about what a short lead he took off of first base, but he always got a great jump, and he patented kind of a hard pop-up slide into second base. Lou was left-handed like me, so I guess as a young kid there was a connection. His speed made him a really good left fielder, but he didn't have the strongest throwing arm in the world. But my dad telling me if you'll watch him when he makes throws from the outfield, he always throws straight overhand because lefties kind of have a tendency for the ball to tail. So I learned a little bit there. But his last year, he was 40 years old. He hit average of 304. He ended his career with over 3,000 hits, made the Hall of Fame. I read biographies about him when I was a kid, read the sporting news articles about him. He grew up in a sharecropper family, like in El Dorado, Arkansas. He didn't even play organized baseball till he was in the 11th grade. He was incredibly smart. He was a math major in college, a successful businessman, and he was just a class guy and a hero to me. And my second favorite player was Bob Gibson, and the Cardinal family lost both in Gibson. They both passed away in 2020.
Mm. Yeah, two amazing players. I mean, there's so many. There's so many that goes through both of those organizations and just through baseball in general. We could go on and on about why we like certain players and the impact they had. So,
Yeah.
uh, Hey, real quick, there's some people that like you guys. We had from I think Haley sent it. She said hi, Dad, to you, Mister. And then Scott, you got a comment from my mother-in-law. Looking good, Scott. Glad to see you on the show. So, hey, got some fans of the fans. That's awesome. You, you notice they didn't say anything about Jay or myself, so that's okay.
I don't get talked about. That's okay.
Hey,
That's okay.
Jay, you're awesome. How's that?
You're both
You're
awesome,
too.
and hi.
Thanks, guys. Hey, we're going to take our first commercial break, and then we'll be back with our next segment here. We're going to bring on CNS Business Services, and they're going to talk a little bit about what they do.
I'm Kirk DeMars with Sports Locker Magazine. I'm here with Stephanie Lehman of CNS Business Services. Stephanie, what can people expect when they come into CNS Business Services?
When they come in, if you've already applied online, that's great. That way we have your basic information. But if you come in to apply for one of our jobs or any of our jobs, or even if you don't see something on our website right now and you just want to get into our system, our pool of applicants, you can come to CNS. Taryn here will get you started with the application process. And then at that time, it's likely you'll be able to talk to one of our staffing specialists specifically about our jobs that we have open, and they can match you up with the job that's right for you.
Bottom line, if they need a job, they need to come see you guys.
Absolutely. You can always website, check it out, apply online. That gets you started. That gets your application process started, and then we can help you out the rest of the way either by contacting CNS or coming to
Paula and Stephanie, they're a sponsor of the program. They have been from the beginning, and they do a great job. They threw a different guy in there on this one to kind of introduce her, and so I'm sorry. I didn't want to be on there, but I was on there. So we just appreciate everything they do in there.
But
What's that?
I was going to say before I go into my next question, I wanted to say, Dad, you're a star. You look so good on the TV.
Yeah, great. We'll just move on from that and say they're the stars of the community, and I appreciate everything that they do. So, and being a sponsor. So, all right.
Yeah, for sure.
They
Hey,
go ahead.
Hey, Scott. There have been some really awesome announcers for both of these ball clubs. Talk about how they brought the game to life for you through listening to their broadcast.
Well, for me, I think it goes without saying that Cardinal baseball to me was Jack Buck doing the play-by-play and Mike Shannon doing whatever it is Shannon does. But Buck was in the Cardinal booth for over 50 years. He's in the Baseball, Football, and Radio Hall of Fame. And as a Cardinal, you listen to him so much on the radio that you almost felt like you knew him. And I think this has been said a lot, but a really good baseball announcer paints a picture for the listener. And my favorite Jack saying was whenever the Cardinals would get the last out of a victory, he would just say, "And that's a winner." So that always made me smile. And of course, Mike Shannon, he's funny, he's famous, he's known for saying weird things. I've got a list of some of the crazy things he's been known to say. One time he said a guy was better than a chicken being chased by Ronald McDonald. Another time he said the right-hander is throwing up in the bullpen. I think he meant he's throwing up in the bullpen, but he's throwing up in the bullpen. Another time he said a hit up the middle right now would be like a nice sandwich and a cold frosty beer. And he would always say, "Old Abner Doubleday's done it again," which that's who he credited instead of Alexander Cartwright.
Okay.
And I wasn't old enough to hear Harry Carey do Cardinal games, but of course I heard his shenanigans when they did the Cubs games. But I stole this from another comedian, but one time Harry would say stuff like, there's a high pop up to the short. Dave Concepcion's under. Oh, he drops it in the sun. You know, Steve, here's a guy that grew up in a Cal Sunshine 365, and he loses the ball in the sun. I just don't get it. Hey, look at the kid in the sombrero.
How do you follow up on that, anybody?
That's great. Yeah. How
awesome.
does
Yeah.
anybody follow that?
Oh, that's the program. That's the show, folks.
That's a wrap.
Yeah, that's a winner right there.
Nick Thomas says, that's great, Scott. So there you go. That's awesome.
I hope you're watching because I know you have a really good Harry Carey too. But one gives you a run for your money. That was awesome, Scott. Thank you. Hey, Joe. Tell us a little bit about how you got started writing for Kings of Kaufman, and I want to hear about the Royals fan base.
I got started 3 years ago. It was one of the years after the Royals had just gotten back into the postseason, and it was a website that I frequently read was Kings of Kaufman, just to follow news and stuff like that. And those of you that know me know that I like to put my 2 cents in quite a bit. So I got in contact with some of the guys and I said, hey, I've got some free time and lots of opinions. So if you've got any openings, let me know. And they told me to do some write-ups, and I did one and sent to him, and they really enjoyed it and took me on, and I wrote for him for about a year, I think, and it was fun. It was good to. I was kind of amazed at the people I got to know as a result of that. I actually got to know Jeffrey Flanagan, that writes for MLB.com a little bit, and so it was an interesting experience. And you want to talk about the Royals fan base? If you are a Chiefs fan, I think you kind of know it's a franchise that was just so snake bit for so long, but it was always a great baseball town. There was always a hunger for the Royals to do well, because they were, in the 70s and early 80s, the Royals and the Yankees were kind of the kings of the American League. People might not realize that now, but the Royals and Yankees rivalry used to even sort of outweigh the Red Sox and Yankees for a time. So in 2014 and 2015, it was really great to see that group of fans, finally be rewarded with a winning team.
It is something that the people that have gone through that for a long time, I mean, the appreciation, it's overwhelming. Overwhelming.
It is. It is. And
Yep.
I've often thought that people that grew up as Cardinal fans, I don't know that they always appreciated those World Series when they got there or won them, because it happened so often that it just kind of becomes regular. Where Royals fans, man, in 14 when they got it was party time, because most of the fan base had never seen that. So that it was a really good time.
Speaking of fan base, Jay Gill has a fan that just came on. His mother, she said hello. So there you go, Jay.
Hi, Mom.
It's always good to have her on here. That's great. My sister, she's on here. Mother-in-law. Not all of our audience is relatives, but hey, it's still nice. That's good. I saw Tammy was on here. Melissa was on here, so that's great. It's good to have people that we know and love and appreciate. So, Joe, tell us a little bit about the ball players that have been around for a little bit for the Royals, kind of where that's going, and some of the up and coming people.
Well, after 14 and 15, after the World Series win, they kind of had two different ways that the team could go. They could hang on to guys like Eric Hosmer and Mike Moustakas and try and make another run at it before free agency led to a lot of those guys leaving, or they could just tear it down and do a full rebuild. And their general manager, Dayton Moore, decided, hey, we've got Hosmer, we've got Moustakas, we've got these guys. Let's try and win as much as we can while we can. And, You can debate whether or not that was the right or wrong thing to do. They've gone back to a couple of 100 loss seasons back to back this year with those guys gone. But they have some pretty exciting young pitchers coming to the minor league system right now. Two of their younger guys, Brady Singer and Chris Bubik, both got their debuts last year. Weren't superstars yet, but as we all know, nobody's fully developed yet there. And they have several more young arms like that are on the way. And it was an interesting offseason because for a small market franchise, they really went out and spent money this offseason. And it was especially odd because of the pandemic. There's been less revenue, but they kind of put their foot on the gas. They went out and got Michael Taylor to play center field. They got Carlos Santana, that was the Indians' first baseman for a long time. And if he gets to hit against other pitchers like he did Royals pitching, then he should be fantastic. And then just in the last week or two, they pulled off a pretty big trade and traded for Andrew Benintendi from Red Sox to replace Alex Gordon. And this will be an interesting year for him. I mean, there's the ingredients for this to be a really special season for him.
Very good. Very good. Jay, up with next question, sir.
Yeah. So Scott, I know that the Cardinals, they've had some amazing talent in the past. I kind of want to know about this year and what can we look forward to the Cardinals ball club?
Well, I think the National League is going to be up for grabs, and I wouldn't be surprised if the winner of the division is just barely over 500. I've seen several projections, but the majority of them, and the one that I'm going for, is Cardinals, Brewers, Cubs, Reds, and Pirates. The big news, obviously, is the Cardinals traded for perennial all-star Nolan Arenado at the third base. So between him and Paul Goldschmidt at first, they got 2 Gold Glovers and 2 pretty good bats. Paul DeYoung at shortstop should be decent. Tommy Edmond or Matt Carpenter will play second. Not quite sure how that'll go. They lost Colton Wong, another Gold Glover, went to the Brewers. The outfield is pretty much a bunch of youngsters. Tyler O'Neill, who did win a gold last year, but Harrison Bader, Dylan Carson, Lane Thomas, they'll kind of compete to see who will get the most playing time. Yadier Molina came back. I think he's kind of agreed to. We'll see what happens to taking a few days off. But Adam Kinzer is kind of the heir apparent, so I think he'd be fine. The whole thing with the Cardinals is pitching, like it is with everyone. They have the potential to probably be the 3rd or 4th best staff in the National League, but there's already problems happening this spring. So like Jardy, Miles Mikolas, Wainwright, the Korean, Kim, the left-hander, were projected to be the first 4 in the rotation. And then the toss-up for the 5th starter was like, who was it? Daniel Ponce de Leon, Carlos Alex Reyes, and John Gant. But already Mikolas is having arm problems. Kim, the Korean, he's lost like 6 miles an hour off his fastball, so they're not quite sure. And Martinez isn't having a good spring, so we'll see. But I do think they have some depth there. The bullpen, I think it'll be all right. Jordan Hicks, you may remember him. He was clocked at 102 miles an hour the other day, so I think he's coming back from injury. To me, the biggest question is the bullpen, Andrew Miller. He was that tall, great left-hander that pitched for Cleveland in the playoffs a few years back, and he's kind of lost it. So if he can get back to part of how good he was, I think he'd be handy. But it's just a lot of things all in place like every year. But I know they'll be competitive, and that's the fun part.
Yeah, it ought to be very interesting to watch. Of course, it happens every single year where you see a team is primed and ready to go. It looks like they've got everything going, and then all of a sudden, different things start happening with ball players. Like you said, Scott, especially the pitching staff, that makes such a difference. And the hopes can be lost in pretty much the first month of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, hey, we're going to go
I
ahead.
I,
Go
I
ahead.
think the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals benefit from. I think Scott would agree. They're in a fairly weak division right now. There's not a really super talented team in the NL Central, so
Right.
there's no reason that the Cardinals can't win that division. I mean,
Right.
they're capable of being right back in the postseason just because of the division that they play in.
Yeah.
I agree. They have to win their division though, because I think it'll be so mediocre that you can't get a wild card out of that division.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see the what. I think the wild cards are pretty well locked up in the East and West. That NL West ferocious this year.
Yeah. Very good. Well, guys, we're going to do our last sponsorship here real quick. In the meantime, we're going to get ready for our last segment. This time just flies by every week, doesn't it, Jay?
It sure does.
My goodness. In the meantime, any of you that are watching tonight and you have favorite Royals or Cardinals memories, go ahead and feel free to post them in there, and we'll try to share that on screen. We'd like to hear from you on that as well. Right now, we're going to go to our other sponsor, Diesel Power Plus.
Delton Rissler here with Diesel Power Plus and Edge Graphics in California, Missouri. We're positioned in the Crossroads Shopping Plaza. We're located on the Highway 1587 on the Crossroads. And I just wanted to announce we have a truck meet or a truck show coming up April 17th. My brother are both in the same building. He has a chrome shop. We're going to have it's going to be a big event, and for those that want to get out and do something April 17th, I encourage you to come down. It's going to be a family event. We're going to have things for the children to do. We're going to have bounce houses. There will be food on the premises. It's going to be an all-day event. It's Delton Rissler with Diesel Power Plus and Edge Graphics. Come see April 17th at the Crossroads Shopping Plaza.
Guys, if you are going to be around mid-Missouri, Jefferson City area on April 17th, you're going to need to get out there. From what Delton and Ashley have been telling me, there's going to be a tremendous amount of trucks and vendors out there at that venue, and it'll be quite a sight to see. So I'm looking forward to being out there and just having fun out there. I think they're going to have ice cream out there that day too, so that's always good.
That's what Kirk is focused on. There's ice cream.
Joe, you're pretty close over there. Not too far from there, so that's.
I am. Yeah. Hey, we don't need to get ice cream too close to me though.
That's right. It's funny. Hey, we're going to finish up this last segment. Again, thank you guys for coming on and being a part. Scott, first I want to ask you, why don't you tell everybody kind of what it is you're doing and the organization you're working for and how that impacts the, I guess you would say, the college landscape as far as the student athlete.
Thank you, Kirk. I'm now working with Intervarsity Christian Fellowship. We're an interdenominational Christian fellowship. We minister to students and faculty. We have over 1,200 chapters on over 850 college and university campuses. The world is a pretty scary place right now with the COVID and economic troubles, racial strife. There's much going on, and I don't think it's too hard to tell that young people today in college are looking for something to give them some peace and hope and direction. And of course, our prayer is that something that they find is, the hope and grace of Jesus. But we do partner with a lot of different organizations, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, Crew, Navigators, to try to make sure that there's as many witnessing communities, around the country as possible. We do have a group within Intervarsity called Athletes in Intervarsity. And if anybody would want to know any more about it, just log on to intervarsity.org or email me. Kirk can give you my email address. But thank you.
He's going to trust me with giving you his email address. That's awesome. That's great. I'm glad you mentioned that, the opportunity, if anybody wants to get involved, that they can contact you. That's great. you guys are doing a great thing.
Thank you.
Jay, you're up.
Hey Joe, tell us how you would recommend someone getting started on gaining knowledge about their team or the game in general. How did you do that?
Honestly, I think the best way if somebody really wants to learn the ins and outs of baseball, not just the obvious things of you hit a ball and you run to first base, listen to games on the radio. That was a thing for me when Scott was talking about Jack Buck and those guys. I grew up as a Royals fan listening to Denny Matthews and just learned so much about the game because he was so knowledgeable and just provided so many things that most people don't think of as they're watching a game. But it paints a picture in your head. You have to kind of visualize what he's telling you about, and that's a really good way to learn just the rules of the game, the little ins and outs of the game. And then if you're a veteran, as they say, a website that I use frequently when I write is baseballreference.com. If you want a statistic for baseball, it's there. And you just punch in a guy's name and you can find out. They've got college statistics, they've got minor league statistics, and it's very user friendly and just a great resource if you're a fan or pretend to be a writer like me.
Pretend, whatever. Hey, Joe, I know Jay would have probably appreciated having the reference site before the program and being able to give a lot of other information. So he's going to probably get on me about that afterwards. Why didn't I get that?
Exactly.
Okay, you do it right now. Good. Hey, I want to just ask both of you to give like a closing comment and what your prediction is for the Royals and the Cardinals this year and their finish. Scott, we'll start with you.
Well, first, I want to just say thank you for having me. It's been fun to talk baseball. I want to congratulate Joe on his writing and Kirk and Jay and the Sports Locker magazine team for the good work that you guys are doing. Uh, and Jay, I take no offense to you saying that I was as old as Alexander Cartwright because I've drinking way too much iced tea and I'm about ready to take a break. So go Card.
All right. Scott, what do you think how they're going to finish this year?
I think that they will probably come in first or second in their division, and they've got to come in first to make the playoffs. But I hope they do much better, of course.
All right. Very good. Joe, your turn. Your closing comments and your prediction.
Well, I just kind of mirror what Scott said. I do appreciate anytime I get to be on here and talk baseball with you guys. It's always a good time. Scott, it's good to see your face and talk to you again. It's been a really long time, so it's good to speak with you. I think you're right about the Cardinals. I think they're more likely than not going to win the NL Central. It's a weak division. They've got just enough offense with Goldschmidt and Arenado that I think they're probably going to be about an 84, 85 win team and probably squeak it out and get into the playoffs. And once you're in the playoffs, I mean, it's a short season then. So all you got to do is punch your ticket to get there. The Royals, I think, probably are equally as talented as the Cardinals. I think both rosters line up pretty evenly. Unfortunately for the Royals, the American League Central is much better than the National League Central. And with the White Sox, the Indians, the Twins, it's going to be really hard to win that division. And I would say that one of the wild card winners is going to come out of that division. That just seems to be a really talented division, top to bottom. I don't think the Royals are going to get there, but I think they're going to be a lot of fun to watch. And if a few things here and there go right for them, they could still be interesting in September, which is always a good time.
Yeah, that's great. Hey, thank you guys both. Real quick, we have a couple of comments. Again, Megan, she said, my grandma was a diehard Royals fan. When I would visit them in the summer, she always listened to the games on the radio, and I would listen with her. I know a lot of people did that. And then one other comment. This is from Jay's mom again. She said to Scott, "You're doing good work too, Scott." So, hey, that's awesome.
Absolutely.
Guys, thank you. If you will hold on until after we're finished closing out the program, I always have to give Jay the final word, so we'll go ahead and do that, I guess, and we'll come and talk to you guys in a little bit. But thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you guys shortly. All right, Jay.
Man, this just got my spring fever more intense. And unfortunately, I still think we're in false spring, so I don't like that. But man, I got my baseball energy fired up. The opening season is on April 1st, so I hope there's no April Fool's Day prank pulled on us and they have to push it back. Uh, so far, everything looks like it's going to keep going. So super excited for baseball, and I'm super grateful to have Scott and Joe on tonight. They are very smart, very educated guys. So it's fun to talk to them, and I just feel through doing that. One Nation, we are out of time. I appreciate you guys hanging in there with us as we go over. But please like our show, share our show, and comment the whole time. Kirk's always watching comments and finding the best ones. You guys can feel free to ask questions, and I really got. So God bless and have a great week.
Yeah, God bless you. We'll see you guys next week.